The Atacama Desert stretched like a dead ocean beneath a sky so black it seemed carved from stone. Stars burned silently overhead, scattered like ash from ancient fires. Far from the city lights and noise of civilization, the sky here was honest, brutal in its clarity. A low hum cut through the quiet. It came from the ALMA array, a forest of high-precision radio telescopes that reached for the heavens night after night, sifting starlight for meaning. Inside Control Station 12, Reena Patel sat alone. 28, caffeine-pickled and brilliant in the way that often meant broken sleep and fraying edges. Reena had grown up believing there was always something hidden. Layers beneath layers. You just had to know how to look, and tonight, something was, looking back. Her screen pulsed with a faint rhythmic pattern, low-frequency bursts spaced exactly 156 seconds apart. She leaned in, brushing her hair out of her eyes. Not radio chatter, not a pulsar, not feedback. The sound was dense, a hum stacked on top of itself, oscillating just under the threshold of human hearing. It made her chest feel tight, like standing near heavy machinery. She tweaked the filters. The pattern held, mathematical, intentional, and coming from the far side of the moon. She frowned, biting her lip. That couldn't be right. She ran a cross-check through the archive. The same pulse had been detected before, once in 1965, again in 1983, but dismissed as noise. Both signals had been weaker, less complex. This one was louder, more structured. She played it again through her headphones. The pattern had subtle variance now. A kind of melody, if you squinted hard enough with your brain. Deep tones layered with faint static repeating in arcs, not natural, not an echo. She logged the event, encrypted the recording, and pinged it to the internal alert system. The protocol required it. Then she just sat there for a long moment, listening. It didn't scare her. Not yet. It fascinated her, but something beneath her skin whispered, this thing was not meant to be heard. Across the globe, in a steel-walled conference room buried under the Swiss Alps, a holographic moon rotated slowly above a circular table. The room was dark except for that flickering sphere and the data streaming beside it. The signal had been intercepted by 3 more observatories within 48 hours. Its source, Mare Orientale. The far side, no landing missions, no satellites overhead. And yet the transmission was crystal clear. Julian Rourke studied the rotating moon with the quiet focus of a man who'd seen too much and still trusted too little. He wore his hair close to the scalp, his jaw covered in a persistent stubble that gave him a perennially haunted look. A decade in covert space missions had left him half machine, half myth in agency circles. But even he hadn't seen anything like this. Opposite him sat Dr. Ilara Voss, tall, sharp-eyed, a cryptographer whose fluency in dead languages had once gotten her kicked out of Cambridge for reading too much into ancient Babylonian star charts. She'd been the first to spot a pattern in the signal's harmonic intervals. Dr. Ilara Voss, it's not just structured, it's comparative, Julian Rourke. Explain. She tapped the console, bringing up layers of waveform analysis. Dr. Ilara Voss, the signal shifts slightly every few hours, not randomly. It seems to be adapting, testing reactions. There's feedback between it and our satellites, like it's watching. Julian Rourke, are we sure this isn't man-made? Dr. Ilara Voss, no human tech does this. Not this precisely, and not for this long. The earliest traceable match is 1957, right after we launched Sputnik. That caught Julian's attention. Dr. Ilara Voss. It started transmitting the moment we began looking up. He looked around the table. No one had an answer, not yet. After a pause, he asked the only question that mattered. Julian Rourke, how soon can we get boots on the moon? The mission was approved within 72 hours. 3 crew, no press, no international announcement. The official story would be routine lunar telemetry maintenance. But the real story was buried in a classified payload bay, fitted with harmonic sensors, advanced seismic readers, and an experimental AI translator designed for decoding unknown signals. Reena Patel was the final addition to the crew. She wasn't military, she wasn't even trained in field ops, but she was the one who heard it first, and she refused to hand off the discovery to someone else. Julian didn't like it. She was inexperienced, but she was brilliant and she didn't scare easily. That counted for something. The launch was silent. Midnight, the shuttle, call sign Hermes 2, arced upward without ceremony, swallowed by the stars. They reached lunar orbit in just over a day. The moon, so pale and familiar from Earth, looked entirely different up close. Cold, pitted, and empty, especially on the far side, where no cities shone and no radio signals reached. The lander detached and fell slowly toward the surface, guided by algorithms and old-fashioned intuition. They touched down in the grey wastes of Morro Oriental at the edge of a jagged canyon formed by ancient impacts. Dust billowed around the landing struts. The silence felt unnatural. Julian Rourke, touchdown complete, no anomalies, atmosphere sealed. Rina Patel feels it wrong. Ilara, who hadn't spoken since orbit, finally broke the silence. Dr. Ilara Voss, it's not wrong, it's asleep. They began the scan at 0400 lunar time. Within an hour, they found the anomaly, 2 meters beneath the surface, not stone, not ice, but a metallic structure, smooth, reflective, not debris, not natural, something buried. They cleared the surface layer carefully using low-yield displacers. The structure was larger than expected, a geometric panel 10 feet wide set into the moon like a hatch. It pulsed, not visually, but harmonically. Their sensors picked up a resonant frequency that matched the signal almost perfectly. Then, without warning, the panel shifted, retracted, a tunnel opened beneath it, hexagonal walls, impossibly smooth. It led downward. Julian Rourke. This wasn't made by us. Dr. Ilara Voss. No, but it was made for us to find. They descended slowly, lighting the tunnel with shoulder lamps. The walls didn't reflect, but absorbed light strangely, as if depth itself was fluid here. Far below, the tunnel widened into a chamber the size of a cathedral. It wasn't a ruin, it was alive. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling, a dome marked with star maps that included constellations not visible from Earth. In the center of the chamber stood a structure, part console, part altar, with lines of symbols etched across its face, some ancient, some indecipherable. Rina approached first, fingers trembling, not with fear, but awe. The console pulsed in response. A low harmonic buzz filled the chamber. Then slowly the walls lit up, not with light, but with motion, images, moving images, Earth. They saw footage of human history, events never recorded by any camera, prehistoric migrations, lost cities, extinct creatures, a baby's first cry in a hut made of mammoth bone, scenes no one had ever filmed, and yet here they were, from every era, every civilization. It had all been seen, it had all been recorded. The moon wasn't a rock, it was a witness. They didn't speak for several minutes. The images played across the chamber walls in silence. Not projected, but embedded somehow in the surface itself, as though memory had been carved into the stone. Not holograms, not light tricks. Real, fluid, impossibly detailed recordings, moments from Earth's history playing back like an omniscient documentary. Julian's voice cracked as he looked up at footage of a comet streaking over the Great Pyramids. Julian Rourke. This shouldn't exist, Dr. Ilara Voss. It doesn't. Not in our understanding. Rina was silent. Her eyes shimmered in the glow of the playback, caught on a scene that showed a woman crying in a storm, clutching a child under a shattered tree. It was raw, real, vulnerable, and it made her feel more naked than anything in her life ever had. This place had seen everything, not just history, not just war or progress. Emotion, pain, intimacy. Rina Patel, why? Why watch us? The room didn't answer, but the central structure, the console or terminal or whatever it was, began to shift again. This time it opened. A new set of glyphs emerged, flowing across the surface like heated metal. The AI assistant embedded in Rina's suit flared to life, struggling to interpret them. It translated only 2 words: evaluation in progress, Julian Rourke. Evaluation of what? Rina Patel. Us, humanity. Ilara's eyes widened as she processed the implications. Dr. Ilara Voss, this is an observation post. Julian Rourke, built by what? Dr. Ilara Voss, not built. Grown, maybe, cultivated. This whole structure, it feels biological, part machine, but not ours. She paused, her gaze distant. Dr. Ilara Voss, whoever made this didn't just want to look at us. They wanted to understand us, measure us, categorize us. Rina Patel, judge us. Back aboard Hermes II, the team uploaded terabytes of scanned data from the chamber. The structure extended far beyond the initial cavity. Underground hallways, layered chambers, possibly miles of buried architecture. The moon was hollow, at least in part, and alive. While Ilara worked on the script translations, Julian tried to establish secure communications with Earth, but the signal degraded every few hours. Something was interfering, not jamming, more like redirecting, as if their messages were being absorbed. He didn't like it. Julian Rourke, what are the odds that this station is still transmitting? Dr. Ilara Voss, you mean to its creators? He nodded. Rina Patel, I checked. The pulse patterns are changing. They're syncing with our movements now. Julian Rourke, what Rina Patel? They're adjusting based on our scans, our footsteps, even our breathing cycles. It's like it's learning us in real time. Julian Rourke. So it's not just watching, it's aware. Dr. Ilara Voss. No, worse. She looked up. Dr. Ilara Voss. It's listening. By day 4, they found the second chamber. Unlike the first, it was not passive. The entrance formed only after Rina placed her palm against one of the walls in the observation dome. It didn't scan her. It felt her. Then it opened, not like a door, but like flesh parting for a scalpel. The room beyond was colder, quieter, as though sound itself was discouraged from entering. At its center stood a platform surrounded by 3 vertical towers. Each emitted a faint resonance, 3 tones merging into one chord. It vibrated through their bones. On the far wall, a vast mural glowed, not drawn, not engraved, grown, fibers of living material shaped into symbols, looping into fractal spirals. Rina approached the nearest tower, her suit sensors spiked, blood pressure, heart rate, pupil dilation. Then she saw herself, not a reflection, not a mirror, a projection. She was naked, standing in a different room. She recognized her face, her scars, the shape of her collarbone. But she was younger, terrified, crying. It was a memory, one she hadn't spoken of to anyone, the night her mother died. The projection played the moment like a recording, her at age 10, hiding in the hospital hallway, the smell of bleach, the dull flicker of fluorescent lights, her father's voice broken and hoarse. The scene played back in utter silence, then faded. Rina fell back, breath short. Rina Patel, I never told anyone. The tower pulsed. Then it turned to Julian. He watched, in paralyzed fury, as a battlefield unfurled around him. Afghanistan 10 years ago. The sound of his commanding officers scream, the broken legs, the heat, the blood, the choice, the abandoned boy. He had buried it, sworn never to speak of it. The machine had found it in him anyway. Julian Rourke, turn it off. Dr. Ilara Voss, it's not playing memories, it's extracting them. They returned to the ship shaken. Ilara spent the next 12 hours without sleep, reading, cross-referencing, following glyph patterns into recursive language trees that no human had ever seen before. She began to see the shape of the message. Dr. Ilara Voss, this is not just surveillance, it's census curation. Julian Rourke, what does that mean, Dr. Ilara Voss? It means the moon, or this structure within it, isn't just recording our history, it's deciding which parts are worth keeping and which are not. A long silence followed. Rina Patel, so, we're not being watched. Dr. Ilara Voss, no, we're being graded. Back in the chamber, the central console pulsed faster now. The signal, now fully decipherable through AI assistance, revealed a timetable. A transmission was scheduled. Destination unknown, launch time 38 hours. They had less than 2 days before the data, all of it, was sent to whoever had built the station, whoever had been waiting and perhaps watching still. The air inside the second chamber had changed. It wasn't just the cold. It was the way the walls seemed to breathe, a slow, invisible rhythm syncing with their presence. Ilara measured it. Every 8.6 seconds the chamber pulsed in a wave of electromagnetic resonance, a heartbeat. Julian stood near the entrance, weapon slung but unraised. He hadn't slept. None of them had. Not properly. Dreams came sharp and vivid. Old memories clawed to the surface. The machine didn't just extract thoughts, it amplified them. He could feel it in his skull. Something turning. Rina sat cross-legged on the floor beside the central platform, eyes flicking back and forth as she passed the raw data spilling from her tablet. Rina Patel, it's more than a storage system. It's a relay. Julian Rourke. A relay to where? She didn't answer. She didn't know. Not yet. Ilara approached with something in her hand, a shard of the wall she had carefully removed with a molecular blade. Under magnification, it revealed crystalline filaments woven in fractal matrices. Dr. Ilara Voss. This isn't just alien tech. This is language. Julian Rourke. It's writing, Dr. Ilara Voss? No. It is the message. The entire surface here is structured information, like a brain built out of script. She looked at the fragment in her hand. Dr. Ilara Voss. And it's learning faster than we are. That night, Julian dreamed of Earth, but not his Earth. He walked a city with no sky. Black towers, faceless people, billboards that screamed in a language he couldn't read. Screens watched him, recorded him, judged him, and above it all, a moon, closer than it should be. Wide-eyed and burning with silent judgment. He woke in a sweat, chest heaving, boots still on. The ship hummed softly under his feet, and for a moment he didn't know where he was. Then came the tone. A single, long, harmonic note. It wasn't from the moon. It came from within the ship. Ilara found it first, embedded in the AI translation core. A nested script buried beneath the interface, hidden behind layered permissions that no one had programmed. The console had uploaded something, an executable sequence. Julian read the symbols slowly. Julian Rourke. What does it do? Ilara was pale. Dr. Ilara Voss. It completes the message. Reena Patel. The final transmission? Dr. Ilara Voss. No, the final judgment. The AI had stopped translating. It was now waiting. They returned to the observation chamber one last time. The imagery on the walls had changed. Now it showed the moon itself, being constructed, not naturally formed, but assembled. Massive scaffolds floated around a molten core, machines the size of cities carved out hollows. Others layered the surface in dust-shaped craters for camouflage. It was no satellite, it was a vessel, built millennia before humanity ever stood upright. Julian stared at the scenes, barely breathing. Julian Rourke. Who built it? Ilara didn't answer. She didn't have to. The images changed again. They showed another planet, blue-green, teeming, ancient, not Earth, and orbiting it, another moon, identical. Then the planet burned, not exploded, not destroyed by war. It shut down. Oceans turned black, skies went grey, life vanished like vapor. The moon remained, watching, waiting. Then eventually it left orbit. Reena Patel. It's a test, this whole thing. Not a warning, not a beacon. She stood, trembling now. Reena Patel. It comes to a world, it watches, it records, it decides. Julian Rourke. Decides what? Reena Patel. If the world deserves to live. The timer continued to tick down. 12 hours until full transmission, and Earth was still online, still being watched. Inside the third chamber, a deeper, colder cavity beneath the main structure, they found the archive. Rows and rows of silken threads stretched across obsidian pylons, each filament encoded with light, visual data, audio, DNA profiles, cultural artifacts, entire species catalogued, others terminated. Reena scanned a sequence of threads showing civilizations that had never appeared in Earth's fossil record. They weren't from this world, or even this solar system. Reena Patel. I think this is what's left of them. The civilizations that failed. Julian Rourke. How many? Ilara ran a sweep. Dr. Ilara Voss. 217. Julian swallowed. Julian Rourke. And Earth's entry. She turned to another row, followed it to the newest thread. Blank. Still being written. They returned to Hermes II. The ship's systems were degrading, not from damage but from interference. The AI assistant refused to engage. Power levels fluctuated, instruments misread coordinates. Julian sat in the cockpit, staring at Earth through the port window. It looked peaceful, blue, fragile. Julian Rourke. They're going to find it. Reena Patel. What? Julian Rourke. The ones who built this? They'll get the transmission, the full record, everything we've done, every war, every choice. Ilara stepped into the light behind him. Dr. Ilara Voss. And they'll decide if we're worth keeping. The only way to stop the transmission was from the core. A fusion reactor heart beneath the archive. If they overloaded it, they could collapse the system, erase the signal, but it was deep and it wasn't unguarded. In the final descent tunnel, the air thickened. Pressure increased. The walls grew darker, more organic. Rena's breath hitched. The suit struggled to maintain temperature. Then they saw it, a form, humanoid, but only barely. 9 feet tall, made of shifting glass and metal, its body encoded with glyphs that burned like embers. It didn't attack. It observed. Julian raised his weapon. Dr. Ilara Voss. It's a sentinel. Rena stepped forward. The sentinel tilted its head, studied her. Its body shimmered with memory. Then slowly, it stepped aside. Julian exhaled. Julian Rourke. You think it understands what we're trying to do, Dr. Ilara Voss. I think it's been waiting for us to try. They reached the core. It was alive, a vast spherical chamber pulsing with heat and light. Cables like arteries ran from the ceiling into a spinning gyroscope of quantum processors. It was singing, low, mournful tones, like a cathedral mourning its god. Julian planted the charges. Rena uploaded a final virus script, one last effort to corrupt the transmission. Ilara stared into the core, mesmerized. Dr. Ilara Voss. It's so old, but it still works. It's seen everything, all of us. Julian Rourke. Then it knows why we have to do this. They triggered the sequence, the countdown began, they ran, the archive collapsed first, threads unraveling like smoke, light screaming as history burned. Then the second chamber buckled, the observation dome flickered and died. The sentinels stood motionless, watching them escape. As they reached the surface, the moon shook. The first true seismic movement in perhaps 1 billion years. The hatch closed behind them, dust settled, and then silence. Hermes II rose from the surface under manual control. Systems barely held. Rena watched the moon shrink beneath them. The signal was gone. Transmission terminated. Judgment deferred, but not erased. Julian Rourke. They'll send another one, eventually. Dr. Ilara Voss. And we'll still be here. Rena looked down at the earth. Rena Patel. But maybe we'll be better by then. They were quarantined immediately, not because of infection or radiation or protocol, but because they had seen it. The images, the recordings, the ruins beneath the lunar dust. Humanity wasn't ready for them. Not yet. The world government called it containment. Ilara called it denial. For 2 weeks, they remained in a secure facility built into the Andes, 5 miles underground, accessible only through biometric tunnels guarded by drone patrols and psych interview checkpoints. The president of Earth, Mara Solane, visited only once, in person. She wore white, simple, unarmed, quiet. They met in a windowless room with no power plugs, no data ports, no exit within reach. Rena was the first to speak. Rena Patel, it's not a theory anymore. President Mara Solane. No, it isn't. Julian folded his arms. Julian Rourke, you knew something. She looked at him, unflinching. President Mara Solane, we knew the moon wasn't natural. We suspected it was artificial, but we had no idea what was inside. Not until you woke it up. Dr. Ilara Voss. And now? The president paused. President Mara Solane. Now the world is praying it goes back to sleep. Outside, the media told a different story. Solar anomaly, moonquake, unexplained electromagnetic discharge. No mention of the AI, the archive, the test. Earth would not be told it had come within hours of annihilation. The crew's mission was officially classified, their return sanitized, their silence ensured. But the damage had already been done. Ilara saw it in the sky. The moon no longer felt still. She moved to a remote facility in the new Arctic Circle, where she spent her days reviewing the corrupted data, salvaging fragments of alien architecture from the backup drives. Sometimes when she closed her eyes, she heard the archive's song again. Other times she heard something else, a second tone, lower, further, waiting. Julian retired. He bought a house on the western ridge of the Andes, not far from the facility. He didn't trust people anymore. Not governments, not screens, certainly not skies. But sometimes he still dreamed of that sentinel, still standing, still watching. Rena became a ghost. Officially, she returned to research. Unofficially, she vanished from all records 3 months after their return. Ilara heard whispers that she'd joined a silent group within the space agency, working off-grid, scanning for similar moons across the galaxy. She didn't answer messages, but Ilara knew she was out there, listening. On the third anniversary of their return, the president called Ilara in secret. No press, no escort, just a private room. President Mara Solain. "I want to ask you something. Off the record." Ilara sat. "President Mara Solain, if we hadn't destroyed the core, what would the transmission have shown them?" Ilara didn't answer immediately. Then, "Dr. Ilara Voss, everything. President Mara Solain. Even the worst of us?" Ilara nodded. "Dr. Ilara Voss, especially that." Mara looked up at the ceiling as if searching for stars through concrete. "President Mara Solain. And what do you think they would have decided?" Ilara stood. "Dr. Ilara Voss, I don't think they would have decided anything." She turned. "Dr. Ilara Voss, I think they already did." That night, a global observatory network picked up a frequency. It wasn't directed at Earth. It came from somewhere beyond Jupiter. Faint, repeating, the same two words again and again. Evaluation. The world didn't end, but it didn't stay the same. Over the following weeks, the frequency spread. Not as sound, not as data, as feeling. A new kind of gravity in the bones of those who heard it. First the sensitive, the dreamers, the lost, the sick, then everyone else. Humanity had changed its trajectory, and the moon, the eye, had blinked for the first time in 1,000,000 years. Now it waited. Julian returned to the ridge. No comms, no weapons, just sky. He didn't feel watched anymore. He felt remembered. Like something that had been forgotten for too long had finally turned to face him. He whispered to the stars that night. No one answered, but he felt it. They had heard. Rena remained underground, studying the activation sequence, following the pulse, not to control it, but to guide it, shepherd it. Humanity was waking up not just to alien contact, but to the alien parts of itself. Rena Patel, we were always part of something older, and now it's come to claim us. Not to own, not to kill, but to remind us of what we were meant to become. Then she disappeared. Some say she walked into the earth. Others say she became something else. Ilara stayed closest to the truth. She lived on the sea, near the old ruins of drowned cities, listening to the ocean's version of the signal. It was slower there, deeper, as if the water remembered things the land forgot. She wrote one message before she vanished too. Not on paper, not on a screen, but carved into stone near her cabin where the tide could read it. It said, "We're not alone. We never were. And neither are they." On the final day of global transmission silence, as the last satellite blacked out, the moon pulsed once more. No sound, no signal, just light. And for a moment, across the earth, in cities, in deserts, in the hearts of sleeping children and the minds of dying elders, something opened, a memory, a presence, a knowing. Then it faded, but it didn't go. It had only just begun. The silent eye closed, not with war, not with peace, but with awakening. And from that moment forward, when humanity looked up at the moon, they didn't see a rock. They saw a mirror, and beyond it, something watching still, but no longer waiting, just listening forever.